Do, 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 do. Live on Facebook. That was loud.
What the heck? Extra tunage brought to you from the producer's booth because I forgot to turn off my phone. My Lord. I was trying to figure out what the heck was going on there.
My mic is super sensitive this morning.
Good morning. It is time for no. That threw me off completely.
Living low sodium with My LoSo Lifestyle.
Yes,
and Mary Schepp.
And Mary Schepp. Thanks for introducing your own show. And it has been brought to you by the wonderful, gracious support of Reese's Barkery in Pawtucket. Reese'sBarkery.com, 847-363-7297. Mary, good morning.
Good morning.
And to think I was all completely set. I was rolling along. Things were doing wonderfully, smoothly.
I wasn't late. We were doing good.
No, and I completely threw it off by not turning the sound off on my dadgum phone.
That's too funny.
Ay. So,
that cracks me up. I was wondering too. I didn't realize how sensitive my mic was. Cleared my throat. Sounded like I about choked on something.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's. But we're highly trained professionals,
right?
Here.
Good morning, Dad. Good morning, Magda, Nora, Gary from Singapore. So it's funny because a couple times here and there, I've talked about my boss on this show and how I thoroughly enjoy my job and I thoroughly enjoy my boss, even when we switched and I got a new boss for just last year and switched back. And I told him the other day, I said, I'm pretty sure you don't listen to my show. He keeps business and personal, really separate. Mm. And obviously it can be a dangerous slippery slope if you start to get too personally involved in your manager's lives. But I said, it's too bad because I talk about you fairly frequently. And now I don't get to talk about him that much because he's leaving the company. So
oh, really?
He's I know the grass isn't always greener on the other side, but somebody finally offered him something that he couldn't refuse, and he's leaving. So I was kind of a little bummed, but it made me think about change.
Mm-hmm. Change happens.
I'm one of the very few people who absolutely love change. It's very rarely any fun to go through different changes, but almost always you learn something and you grow from it.
No.
So it was as we were talking about it and everybody's complaining how they don't like change and they don't like change. And my husband is one of those people. He despises change. And of course, then once he's through it and everything's fine, whatever. But it was just weird because it's one of those things that you don't expect. You walking in and one day, kind of like when my liver failed, everything's great and peachy keen. And then one day the
next day,
the whole world
not
changes.
So much. Yeah.
But I thought I would mention that this morning because, I like to share little bits here and there about my life. And to me, that was a pretty big change because he's been with the company for quite some time. And as somebody who has been in the hospital multiple times and have to kind of form work around me quite frequently because medical scans and all that other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Having a boss understand those things I can't even put that into words how much that is appreciated.
Yeah, it's kind of, and it's rare too. Sadly, that's rare.
It really is.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, because whenever I talk to people about it, and they're like, oh my gosh, my boss would be a dick about that. Like, really? Mine said, you know what? Do what you got to do. We'll figure it out. Let me know what you need from me. And rallied the troops, called all our other GMs to see who could help, who could do whatever. Like, made sure everything was covered. And it's rare. Yeah. So we'll see what the future brings as far as that goes. The good thing is the person taking his place.
Yeah.
is one of our peers who's given the opportunity to possibly step up. So, at least the person filling his shoes, although he's got big shoes to fill,
Yeah.
is a really genuine dude. So
Well,
it shouldn't be too bad. The transition shouldn't be too horrible, at least as long as they end up staying with him, because outsiders can be interesting. So today,
outsiders tend to shake things up a bit.
They do. So we'll see what the future brings with that. But today I was thinking about form over function.
Mm-hmm.
So of course that turn of phrase, form follows function, is from the 19th century architecture, and that the function of a building should always precede the beauty of it. But in food, it drives me crazy that it's not how it's supposed to be. It's always that, instead of the function of the food coming first, it's the form, it's the beauty of it, the plating, the presentation, and how pretty it looks and how enticing it is.
Oh, that's a big deal.
Well, I thought of it so I made stuffed acorn squash. And of course, if you follow me at all, sadly, I haven't posted a whole lot on my actual page lately, but I post almost everything I eat. So my page is nothing but food and the occasional cat picture. So I made stuffed acorn squash. Mm. Absolutely fabulous. Ground pork from Hidden Marsh Farms up here in Hebron. Because, as I've talked about, I get our pork straight from there now. So sauteed onions, garlic, fresh ground pork, some Italian seasoning, which is usually, bay leaf, sage, thyme, rosemary, your typical pork accoutrement type stuff. I used sour apples, Granny Smith apples, and black beans, and shiitake mushrooms. Mix it all up, and you just roast the squash. Cut it in half, put it in the oven, and roast it. That's it. So it's this perfect bowl, and then you put all the stuff inside it, put a little cheese on top, stick it back in the oven for 5 minutes just to make the cheese all melty yummy, and eat it. Mm-hmm. Sounds fantastic. So here I am. I spent the entire time sitting at the dinner table complaining about this stupid freaking acorn squash. Because it's almost like, have you ever seen a kid trying to catch a ball in a swimming pool?
Yeah.
And it just keeps going and going. This is me trying to stab this stupid acorn squash, because for the presentation, I put it in this shallow type soup bowl thing. But every time you go to stab it with your fork, it slides across. So it's sliding all over the freaking place. And I can't, at this point, I'm starving. I just want to eat. I'm about to launch this thing out of this little bowl across the room. So then you go and try and, hold the other side so it stays still. Well, I just pulled it out of the oven. So it's screaming hot. So you can't hold it. So then you've got to use another utensil. So now I've got a knife holding one side, trying to stab. And I'm just sitting there, and Ben's looking at me like, I don't know what your problem is. He doesn't care how much of a mess he makes. He doesn't care if he gets the perfect bite of squash and whatever. He'll just dig down in the center until there's nothing left to eat. I live to eat. He eats to live. It's sustenance. It's good. And it's a bonus that it tastes great. And I made it and put it on his plate.
Yeah. So the best food in the world that is the food that appears in front of me.
Right.
Yeah. That I had to make no effort whatsoever to obtain. That's my, even over Twinkies, that's my favorite food.
Well, that's what's funny is the same time I made a salad. So I made this, I don't know what you call it, Dijon mustard style honey vinaigrette dressing with juice from oranges, because I love Cara oranges. It's kind of a cross between a navel orange and
so you made an orange honey vinaigrette.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And I made it originally for a broccoli slaw to put on top of a sandwich that Ben and I had the other day. So I had leftover dressing, thought, hey, I'll make a quick salad. And of course, in my brain, I'm thinking pictures for my book, pictures for the, whatever you got to post and you got to share and you got to get likes and you got to get all this other crap. And I'm standing there looking at the salad perfect in this bowl with the layers and the perfect drizzle of dressing on top. And after 2 minutes of staring at it and thinking, I'm to try and mix this so that all of the dressing gets in the salad while I'm sitting at the table is going to piss me off. So I dump both bowls in a big giant bowl, mix it all up, dress everything, put it back on. And it's funny to me how many times that you're sitting at a restaurant and the same thing happens. It comes to your table all beautiful and pretty.
Oh, yeah.
And then you spend 20 minutes trying to figure out how to eat it.
Oh, I don't.
I just...
Much like it sounds like your husband eats, I just
shove it in your face.
Yeah. I just go in. I'm not looking for the perfect bite. I'm not looking for a dainty way to consume it. It's going in my mouth whole. That's just how it works.
So I love the show Beat Bobby Flay. I thoroughly enjoy Bobby Flay. I think it's fun that he is willing to lose and lose graciously. I'm sure he's still a rich, pompous, whatever. And I'll apologize to you in person if I ever get to meet you, Bobby Flay. Because part of you wants to think that these people are super nice.
And there's the bait with the hook.
Right?
He's probably pompous, but I'll apologize.
Well, if I ever get to meet him, I will. If I can prove myself right or wrong.
If you'd like an apology from me personally.
But you know what I mean? You see these celebrities and you just go, I bet he'd be really nice. You have no clue. You have no freaking idea what these people are like. You don't.
No, not until you. Yeah. I mean, and your interaction with them is entirely dependent upon the moment and where they are. Bob Keeshan, nicest guy in the freaking world, Captain Kangaroo. My perception, because I did get to meet him.
Right.
I met him at a restaurant, and he was in a good mood. So,
I had a family member meet Pauly Shore at a bar and said he was the most down-to-earth, nicest guy ever, blah, blah, blah. But you know what I mean? Like you see these people and you say, I bet they'd be nice. And then the ultimate reality is they're way wealthier than we are. They live a completely different lifestyle. If they so chose, they've got, people that can cook for them, shop for them, do whatever. And I'm not saying that they do those things, but you live a different life when you have that kind of money. You just do. And of course, there's levels of that kind of life when you get up to, super rich, wealthy people. But still, he lives in a different class and it has a different life than you or I do.
Yes and no. Because I've been in those, I have been to places where super wealthy people go to do the super wealthy people things, which is eat.
Right.
And many of them do it the same way, just as Kent mentions here. Yeah, us fat guys just eat. Which, by the way, from what I've heard you say about Ben, he's not a fat dude.
No.
He's just a dude who likes to put food in his mouth. And that's, but there's not any, I have seen people who, in those places, you would expect some amount of refinement and some grace and such, but not at all.
That I don't see.
Not at all.
I'm talking when people are shocked by the little things that you or I do every day, when you're grocery shopping, when you're, getting your car washed, when like all of these different things, that's what there's a difference to the lifestyle. At the end of the day, yeah, they still put their pants on the same. They still eat the same. They still have the same quirks, and half of them probably still pick their nose. Who cares? But if I ever get to meet Bobby Flay, I truly would like to meet him. I think he'd be a fun cat.
So you're just presuming that he lives a lifestyle where someone washes his car and does his shopping for him.
Yeah.
And he has all those personal assistants and such that do.
I'm guessing he has a few.
Yeah. So, well, maybe when you're as famous as you are becoming from your show,
I got a little ways to go before I can challenge Bobby Flay.
But yeah, Gary says yes. We just eat over here too.
But I love that show, and it's funny because with the judges. Ben is a fat guy at heart. Yeah, he probably is a fat guy at heart. He does like his Twizzlers, I'll tell you that.
Ooh, I like Twizzlers. It's
got to be the cherry soft Twizzlers, though. And we're both on a side tangent.
Does he like the straws or the nuggets?
both if they're the soft ones. So now Fresh Thyme, for as long as I've been shopping at Fresh Thyme in Crystal Lake, I'm sure there's more all over the place. It's just a grocery store. They had a in their little whatever section of nuts and fruits and vegetables and stuff like that, they have little different candies and things, and they had a fresh licorice. You can get black or the cherry licorice. But you just having the container in your pantry will make your entire kitchen smell like cherry licorice, and it is super fresh and it is absolutely amazing. And they stopped carrying it, so he's so bummed because we can't get it anymore. So now I'm trying to find it, but
that's a drag.
So when you watch Bobby Flay, though, the judges, it always cracks me up because every once in a while you get someone who they take like the smallest bite of something. I forget what they were eating, like banh mi something. But you're supposed to, whatever it was they were eating, we were just watching it the other day. You're supposed to take a bite of it. It's supposed to be like, this is a nice monster sandwich. You're supposed to take a bite of a burger where you get every layer of the burger, and it's not going to be pretty. I'm sorry you're on camera. You should have thought about that. And literally the first lady, it's like, you, how are you judging this? You ate bun. You like the smallest. I didn't even see your teeth. You didn't open your mouth wide enough to get anything but a nibble of the bun on the edge, which he pulled out of a package. That wasn't even anything he cooked. And of course, the guy next to her, full blown like Guy Fieri hunch, dives into it, down on his face, grabs his napkin, wipes his face off, and judges this burger. So that's when I look at that form over function, and you're thinking, now that guy I want to meet. Like this, what is the point of having a plate full of food that if you're just going to sit and look at it because it's pretty?
Well, if you want to eat pretty food, and I don't blame people for that because food can
you eat with your eyes first. I get it
always, and for many people, but if you do want to eat pretty food, might I suggest dainty food?
Right, tapas, small bites, tapas.
small bites, tiny little bits.
So the other one that was a function issue, because everybody always talked about it, and you always hear about artichoke hearts and how good artichokes are for you. Artichoke is a thistle. It's literally like those stupid burrs that you pick off your clothes are thistles. And the weeds, they grow tall enough. It looks like a dandelion, and it has a big, bright, beautiful purple flower, is a thistle. And it's the same with artichokes. So if you get them, that you'll notice that the top of each leaf has got a little stabby thing on it. And it sucks. So to clean them is a huge pain in the butt. And then you got to separate everything, and you got to coat them with oil, and you got to roast them, and it takes forever, and it's this huge process. So the one time, Ben and I are like, we keep seeing it on TV. We got to try this. I can cook, right? Mary makes everything. 18 million hours later, we're both starving. We sit down to eat these artichoke hearts. And of course, we got 2 per plate thinking we're being fatties because they're huge. The artichoke heart inside of it is like the size of a mini Snickers bite. It's the tiniest little thing. It's delicious. I'm not going to lie. But it's this one little bite of food. And then each leaf, and I made a dipping sauce. So the presentation was great. Everything was fabulous. But then each leaf, you can't eat the tip of the leaf. You just literally use your teeth to suck the guts out of the bottom of the leaf. Like, this is the most ridiculous thing. I wouldn't even do this as a dip. This is why people buy it in a jar.
That's why you buy it in a jar, and it's why you go and you buy. And to my surprise, I do like spinach artichoke dip.
I love it.
I do.
I get why people like it.
I do enjoy that. I mean, even though it's got 2 things in it, I have tried to eat artichokes before, and much like you, I thought this is the dumbest thing I've ever done. No, thank you.
Right.
But
buy them in a jar, put them with some cheese, and I will eat it all day long.
Yeah, and like spinach, I don't usually do, like spinach by itself. I generally don't let anywhere near my face. It's just not a good thing it's not a thing I find to be good. But when you put it together in a dip with artichokes, something magic happens, and it makes me happy.
Right. Same.
Yeah.
And I do eat quite a bit of spinach. I like chicken Florentine, which has spinach in the noodles. Not a lot, but enough. So stuff like that is where you could get your spinach. And contrary to popular belief, spinach is not a superfood. Same with carrots and celery and all the other things. They are not superfoods. They are good foods and they are good for you. But when you say something's a superfood, it implies that you can live on it all the time and it's going to cure you. No.
From what? Anything.
Right. It's high on a lot of vitamins and minerals, and it is really good for you. But too much of anything is bad. You need sodium to live. You need potassium to live. You need magnesium, manganese, and all these things, protein, fats. But too much of any of those can kill you. Too little can kill you. So, you just need to eat real food.
I actually ate some Brussels sprouts.
I love sprouts.
On Mother's Day.
I love them.
They were in a cold salad sort of thing, and they were there.
They were there. I make a Brussels slaw all the time.
I ate orange yesterday.
See, now oranges to me, I don't know.
It's the first actual orange I've had in.
So when I get
years.
Oranges, what does Gary say? We cook spinach here locally with shrimp pasta, chili, and tastes absolutely fabulous. That does sound tasty. Whenever I get oranges, like I have a bag of oranges at home right now, I will supreme them.
What does that mean?
So you can look it up, you can YouTube it and see a video on how to supreme an orange. And it sounds like a pain in the ass, but it's really not in the grand scheme of things. So you cut the top and the bottom off so it's flat, and then you literally use your knife to just peel the skin off of the orange so that all you're left with is a ball of orange with no skin, no white pith. So when you take your knife and you cut between each one of those membranes, you know how when you get oranges on a salad at a fancy restaurant, it's got none of your, how did you get all of that membrane off? That's how. So now that way I have the orange juice and those little orange slices that I put in a big giant bowl and put in my fridge. So if I want oranges, I don't have to deal with peeling it. I can just grab a scoop of oranges and put it on my plate. If I want to put them on salads, they're there. And if I want to use the juice in that bowl for vinaigrettes. So it makes it very easy for me to do that. So if I need a few tablespoons to make an orange vinaigrette, I can. Or if I want to add it to a sauce or a dish that I'm cooking, it adds that citrus punch. And when you can't cook with salt, that acidic punch from that orange juice, and it's all natural, it's no sugars added because it came straight from the oranges I just peeled. And then I only have to do it once. So if I do a whole bag of oranges real quick, it only takes a few minutes and then it's set and ready to go. So that's probably the extent of my prepping ability.
That's way, way more than I would ever go through. My orange was simply just cut into wedges, and I didn't even do it appeared. It was one of those things that appeared before me.
Poof.
There were three
orange
orange wedges on my plate, and so I ate them.
That's funny.
And it wasn't terrible. It wasn't bad. It was orangey. So as oranges usually are.
So now it's funny because, Gary talking about King Kong's sister. It's a local name for spinach, King Kong, not King Kong. That's funny. You want to talk about form over function. In a lot of Asian cultures, they eat a lot of soups. And the one thing that I love is that they talk about health as a whole, not as like just being an absence of being sick. Just because you're not currently sick doesn't mean you're necessarily healthy. It's a whole all around package. So they have a soup for everything. But you talk about function, and a lot of times you will see all of the different vegetables and meats and everything like that. Like when you see pho, it's a broth and you put all your stuff in it. So ramen, all of those kinds of things where it all ends up ultimately in a big giant bowl, which makes it super easy to eat, super healthy, super easy to control the ingredients that you're putting into it. And you can pack so much flavor in those things because of the nature of what they are, because of the nature of the broth or the stocks or however, and you have so much control over it. But when you talk about function, that's something when I first started getting into cooking, and I can't wait. I hope sometime in my life I get a chance to go to any of the Asian countries just to visit, just to go anywhere overseas, I think would be absolutely fabulous. But you don't think of soup is a street food. But
Yeah.
then pretty much any cooking show you watch when they go overseas and you see people standing on the side of a food cart with a bowl of soup because you can put anything you want in it.
Yeah, and I probably would never walk up to a food cart and look for soup.
Right. Not here, but
Yeah.
that functionality as far as when you're considering your health, which is part of the reason why I always have frozen soup in my freezer. Not as much now because I have 2 freezers. One is enormous and one is attached to my fridge and it's garbage. I don't understand. I just
What?
don't understand.
So, what?
My fridge
is attached to your garbage?
My garbage. I think I'm having a stroke on live air.
What?
No, it's garbage. It's attached to my refrigerator. So it's a side-by-side refrigerator. Ignore the fact that I said garbage. I meant that my freezer is garbage.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Because it's a side-by-side, because it's so old.
Okay.
It's
all right.
You can't, like, even a small little bag of frozen peas.
Yeah.
I have to cram in one of the little cubbies because everything is so small in it. You can't fit a pizza in there. You can't, like, even a bag of ice takes up an entire compartment.
Wow.
It
That's
is
weird.
Absolutely garbage. It is 100% ridiculous, makes no sense. So I can't use it in the way that I want. And then we have another freezer downstairs that's huge and it's super, super old. But so normally I have all soups.
Well, like those old chest freezers, they'll run for freaking ever. Yeah, but they work. They run forever and ever and ever. Because they were made to. Now, I mean, it seems like you got to get a new fridge every 5 friggin' years.
My problem is washing machines.
That's been our problem too. Washing machines have just not, and they come with like a freaking array of buttons
that you never use.
Ours plays music. Why does it play music? We don't sit and, hey, you know what would be fun to do tonight? Let's listen
to the washing machine. Come on, kids, everybody get around the washing machine.
Around the washing machine and play a few tunes. Why? Who spends that much time with their washing machine?
I mean, I guess if you have 10 kids or something, maybe you're in the laundry room for a long period of time. But I always joke with Ben, if I ever see an avocado green washing machine sitting on the side of the road, I'm going to grab it because it's a motor and a belt and I can fix that. But the one we have now in our house is a Fisher Paykel and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing and it's super old. So hopefully it lasts forever. Talk about form over function. That's
dryers too, because we've replaced dryers over the last several times, probably over the last 5-6 years. We've had 3 dryers.
I can't. We're waiting because all of our appliances in the kitchen are fairly old.
Yeah.
So we're working on deciding what we want to do, whether it's the entire kitchen or just the appliances, because I hate the refrigerator because it's freaking garbage. It's slowly failing. You can tell it's failing. It's got temperature variations. But everything in there is 12 to 15 years old, which isn't horribly old, but it is old. But I want to upgrade our oven to a convection oven because I've learned to love my air fryer so much. I want a whole air fryer oven because then I can make all sorts of fancy stuff.
That would be cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Air fryer oven.
That's a lot of people don't realize that if you get a convection oven or an oven that has a convection feature, that's an air fryer. That's all an air fryer is it more efficiently circulates the heat around the oven, which is what makes that frying type thing happen. So
I was not aware.
But yeah, I wish that I have tried more. Just yesterday, someone at work ordered Thai food. So for the first time ever, and I went really, really super simple and just got some basic chicken stir fry thingy that wasn't super salty, thankfully. I usually know, at least with Asian cuisines, what to stay away from, what uses fish sauce and things like that, and what's going to be super not even remotely on my realm of things I can eat. But I haven't really expanded very much into that realm of food So as much of a foodie as I am, there is so much that I have not tried, and I can't wait till I have the time to do that. But unfortunately, being me, trying new things can be dangerous because it makes me feel like crap if it's going to very, very quickly.
Yeah, because you don't know
Right.
if you're actually really going to be able to eat it. And on that note, at the very bottom of the hour, 7:30 a.m. this morning, we do want to again thank Reese's Barkery and Patique for their incredible, generous support of Living Low Sodium with Mary Schepp. Reese'sBarkery.com, 847-363-7297 in wonderful downtown McHenry on Riverside Drive. Pay them a visit. They have all kinds of cool, good stuff for your pets to eat. Now back to Mary. Here you go.
So Gary has said to try oyster sauce. But the problem with oyster sauce is, if memory serves me, oyster sauce is like 500 milligrams per tablespoon. So I would be allowed a tablespoon, and that would be that would be my lunch.
A tablespoon of oyster sauce. Wow, I'm so full.
I tend to try and stay under around 500 milligrams per meal. Now, if I go over, and here's my disclaimer that I used to start every single show with for like the first 12 shows, is salt is salt. I've said it before, and if you watch my show, you've heard me say it. If you haven't watched my show, salt is salt. Pink salt, gray salt, Himalayan salt, pink Himalayan salt, whatever you want to call it, they are all the same. They're slightly different in the chemical components. So if you look up the nutritional specs on all of them, if you look it up on the back of the bottle, pink salt has less sodium than table salt. The reason is because of the size of the grains.
Yeah, because it comes out, we have like a pink salt grinder.
Right.
And it comes out really almost powdery.
Right.
But
they don't measure that powder.
No.
They measure the salt grains.
Yeah.
So if they do a teaspoon of salt grains versus a teaspoon of table salt, and if you've ever been in a science class, and I said this before too, where your science teacher fills a jar with ping pong balls and says, "Is this full?" And you say yes. And then he dumps something smaller like marbles and says, "Now is it full?" And you say yes. And then he dumps sand in it and says, "Now is it full?" And you say yes. And then he dumps water in it. So the size of those granules. So when you scientifically measure something, when you send it in, like we were talking about Little Bird Kitchens, where he's trying to get food labels and stuff like that, and you got to get your... So if you do it right and you actually get the nutritional specs and you have a company and you pay them to measure your nutrition, they typically do it per 100 grams, which is about like a banana, like if you're thinking in the size of things, a small banana. But that's easier to measure. So if you measure it by weight instead of 100 grams of salt, which you're never going to eat 100 grams of salt because that's just ridiculous. But if you measure it out in weight versus a tablespoon or a cup or anything like that, then you're measuring against the same thing. So pink salt versus table salt. Yes, table salt is refined and it's pretty much just sodium chloride with iodine added, if it's iodinized salt. Pink salt is more natural. It is not refined. It's scraped out of the earth and it is dumped in a jar. So yes, it has levels of potassium and magnesium, but they are negligible at best. So it's like 0.001 per thousand whatevers. So when you say that it's healthier, in the truest literal sense of the word, yes, it might be considered healthier because it does have those things. In the real world and how you eat it, it is still salt. It is not any healthier than table salt or Celtic salt or gray salt or, any of the salts of the earth. There's stores that have nothing but hundreds of different kinds of salts. They're from all around the world. I personally still have pink salt in my cabinet. I love Celtic salt, the flavor to it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's still salt. That being said, people have always argued with me about, not everybody needs to be low sodium. You're 100% correct. I've never argued that everybody should be low sodium. No. Everybody needs to do something under the care of their doctor. If you think you need to be low sodium. So certain things like gout, for instance, they have shown that people who have too low sodium of a diet tend to have higher concentrations of the uric acid. So it doesn't mean you need to eat more salt. It just means you shouldn't be on a low sodium diet, because studies have shown that you should eat the normal amount of sodium, not add sodium to your diet. So it's not necessarily that there's not very many people. There still are certain medical circumstances where people have to physically add sodium to their diet. But for the most part, it's just a straight up, eat the normal amount.
Yeah. And I don't, again,
speaking of someone who has gout, as you do.
So, and then to the extent where even just like because earlier this week, when, it was Tuesday this week, because Kent and Dawn on Anything Goes had a fella on, Nelson Boreas from Pineapple Express.
I saw that. Mm-hmm.
Had some salads and such, and I made a flippant little comment that I had a salad of sorts that night, because it was a hot dog jalapeno chili salad over cornbread. That was my salad, because it was all in one thing. And,
it was salad like.
It's salad in its nature, in that there were several different things all on the same plate. So.
That's hilarious.
But just the tiny amount of beef that was in that has already
woken up your gout buddies.
Not to the point where I am not to the point where I'm severely limping, but to the point where
it's there.
Okay, I know it's here. I know you're there. Dad nabbit. Just let me enjoy my freaking chili. But that will be it for the week. There will be no more added, no more beefs, no more red meats.
Well, that's what it's funny when I talk about. I keep shifting because my foot keeps falling asleep.
But I don't eat a lot. I don't add, I never salt hardly. But the only time I use that pink salt we have is when I'm making eggs, and that's about it.
So now that's what's funny. I don't cook with salt anymore. I haven't cooked with salt since whatever year my liver failed. I don't even know now. I'd actually have to think about that. It's been a while. I can't believe I forgot how long it's been. 5 years, 6 years, something like that. Anyways,
it's 2021. It was 2015, right?
I think so. I think you're right. 2015.
Before, there you go.
See, Pete remembers.
I do pay attention, contrary to popular belief. I'm not just sitting here pushing buttons. I do pay attention.
That's funny. But I haven't cooked with salt since then. And even after I got sick, I didn't use salt for a very long time. And even now, it's in my cupboard. On occasion, I will use it in a bread recipe when I'm sharing that recipe with a friend. Because it's, I thought your last name was Galt all these years, not Gout.
Oh,
but I'm done.
No, the Gouts are different folks. Different folks, yeah.
But I don't. So that's very, on occasion, especially in the summertime, if Ben and I are eating fresh vegetables from the garden, tomatoes, cucumbers, zucchini, anything like that, then on occasion I will put a sprinkle of the ground Himalayan sea salt. Because a little bit goes so far, especially when you haven't been eating salt and you have an unsalted palate, you need such a small amount. Or like you said, on eggs. The problem is very much like the keto diet, is once you start eating sugar on a keto diet or or with salt, once you have salt, it's a very slippery slope once your palate starts tasting those things. So I try not to, just because of that fact that you don't want to undo what you spent so much time doing. And for those that argue, and I'm sure that, because everybody's palate's different, so I'm sure there's plenty of people who it's just the truth. Doesn't matter how long you go without sodium or added salt, I should say, that you, Pete, Kent, oh my God, Kent.
I'm going to start using that now.
Oh my Lord. But see, now you made me lose my entire train of thought. Thanks, Kent. But it's not very often that I use excess salt for that reason, because I don't want to change my palate. And there's a lot of people who, no matter how long they go without salt, they just don't taste the differences in food. It also depends on how old you are, because after you are about 40 or 50 years old, your taste buds start to just go kaputskis.
And that may be what I see in probably when I was, actually even back in my 30s, I much prefer pepper.
Right.
And like,
that's how Ben is.
Like black pepper, cracked pepper.
But you're a spicy palate.
But yeah,
like
I do. I love spicy stuff.
Yeah.
Red peppers, like the red pepper flakes. I would rather sprinkle that over something than salt any day. I really would.
And see, I've evolved into that. But every time I find that if I eat something salty or accidentally eat something salty, or if I don't have a choice and I have to eat something, because unfortunately I've learned that I have to keep my blood sugar balanced. So I have to eat. Because when you're chronically lethargic from a condition, whether it's a heart condition, a liver condition, kidney condition, or, my nerve condition with my spine, when you're fighting every day against this energy clock, which is always depleted, if you let your food stores down or you get them too high, it just knocks you out. So if I eat a large meal, I'm out, because it takes time to digest and it takes energy to digest. That's why you're tired after a Thanksgiving meal. Not because of the tryptophan. You'd have to eat 16 million turkeys to get enough tryptophan to knock you out.
Yeah.
You're tired because your body has to digest that food, and it takes energy to do so. So when you have no energy store and now you've just eaten a large meal, or if you haven't eaten at all, it's almost like I'll pass out, which is why I eat constantly throughout the day. But if my only option when my sugar stores and everything go down is to grab a bag of, lightly salted peanuts or something of that nature, like I know it, and I know it fast. And I don't necessarily bloat because I'm not super sodium sensitive. But holy crap, does your heart race, does everything, when you're not supposed to have salt or you're used to not having it, it messes with your system very, very quickly.
Wow.
It sucks. So anybody with a heart condition I know can relate, because fast when you think that it's not salted and it doesn't taste salty, but there's hidden sodium in there somewhere from something like an oyster sauce or fish sauce or something. Usually you can taste it, but not always. Quickly what you're not supposed to have. And it's funny because the amount of times people are willing to suffer those consequences, like you with your chili, it blows my mind. And I get it. Every once in a while, I like my ice cream. You like your chili.
Hey,
people who do it every meal.
I knew it would be coming, and I knew that it would. I knew to about the extent that it would be, and it's about that extent. I knew it would be a couple days, and then I'd have an uncomfortable day or two, but not debilitating. Because I don't need to grab a cane or anything like that. I can just limp through it and I'll be good.
Right. So. And see, I can't now that I know what it feels like to feel better, as much as I want certain things, like salt on a tomato, I just don't. Even now that I can afford it from a health perspective, and it does take a couple days. So a lot of times you don't have that instant punishment.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'll deal with it. But it's funny to me how much better I feel now. And when I look back at all of the stupid crap, the times I ate even before my liver failed, that I'm going, holy crap, I purposefully made myself feel like shit for days because it sounded good or it sounded fun or it sounded whatever. And I mean, of course, now other than the fact that my liver is a big giant ball of scar tissue, I'm probably the healthiest I've been in a long time. So I wanted to talk about, everybody keeps asking me about my bread. And I know it has not much to do with form over function, but I get a lot of people, and I shared some with Dawn recently, and she is addicted to it. It's bread. I mean, I like it. My husband likes it. I make it all the time. I call it roly-poly bread because I roll it up kind of like a cinnamon roll.
Okay.
But I guess I don't get, I get excited over bread because I make it and I just get excited over food.
Yeah.
But the amount of people that think this is absolutely amazing, I guess is kind of confusing to me because it's a loaf of bread.
Yeah, but I mean, bread though, that's like the number one staple for most people. And
I guess,
like for me though, bread, I get excited about cornbread because I love good cornbread.
I do have a great cornbread recipe.
And I get excited for biscuits because I love good, big, fluffy biscuits. And the only place I can actually just buy a biscuit that's pre-made, that's wonderful every time, is Meijer.
Oh.
They have these little plastic bins. You get 4 biscuits for $2.99, and they're big. They're huge.
Huh.
And they are perfect every single time. And love them. Other than that, you got to make them.
Yeah.
I've never ever found anybody who sells biscuits just done and made, even in a bakery. Sorry, bakery folks, you don't do biscuits right. But Meijer does.
Very
for
rare.
whatever reason. After that, bread for me is just kind of, if I find a good bread, like, and it sticks with you, like the lady who made the Mormon bread. Kim Nordine. Yeah, that it's because that's seated in a memory for me, but it tastes phenomenal. I love that. But when you do get a good piece of bread, it sticks with you. Like the memory of that flavor is just, it's phenomenal. Outside of that, bread's kind of just functional for me. It holds the stuff between the slices when I need a sandwich.
Oh, this is true. See, I don't know. I grew up in a bread and butter kind of household where you had bread and butter with everything, and burgers were on white bread, and not always, but if you wanted burgers and there was no buns, there was no special trip to the store to get buns. It was, there's bread in the house, we're having burgers on bread. And I never thought twice about it. So it's just funny because so many people are terrified of making breads. And I did a bread episode because it can be very tricky to make bread. But this particular recipe is so unbelievably easy, especially if you have like a KitchenAid mixer or a Bosch mixer. 350 grams of flour. I personally do 2 tablespoons of honey, 1 egg, 150 milliliters of milk, half a tablespoon of yeast, and then about 3 tablespoons of butter. So I sift the flour into my KitchenAid mixer, put my yeast in there, and then the egg, the honey, the milk, all get mixed in a bowl just to mix them, not like beat them or whip them or whatever. You just put them in the same bowl so it makes it easy to pour into the KitchenAid. Pour everything in there. You turn it on, speed 2, just to mix it. As soon as it starts to come together, barely, I slice off 3 tablespoons of butter in there and then let it go for 20 minutes. That's it. It kneads itself. It does everything itself. Afterwards, coat it with a little bit of oil, cover it with some saran wrap, put it in the pantry and let it rise for an hour. Take it out, put it however I'm going to make it. If I'm going to make rolls, if I'm going to make a loaf, if I'm going to make loaves, however I'm going to make it, cut it up, make it, form it, and let it sit for another 20, 25 minutes. And then put it into a 400-degree oven for 25 minutes. Or it's almost like 45 minutes if you're doing just one solid loaf because it's bigger. But that's it. It doesn't matter the temperature in my house. It doesn't matter. Sometimes it turns out super liquidy. Sometimes it's super doughy and it looks like a perfect bread ball. It depends on the humidity in the house. It depends on how the flour wants to absorb because that's always the hardest part about a dough. A bread dough is how getting the moisture into the flour. But that's it. That's all it is. That's my recipe. The trick is in that milk and liquid recipe, or in that milk and liquid, you add 100 grams of either banana or applesauce.
What is 100 grams? And
it's
can
about
leave
a
the
banana. So if you mash a banana in a bowl, one banana is about 100 grams. Same with applesauce. You do about 100 grams. Since you don't like bananas, the last loaf I brought was the apple bread that I used apples in it.
And that was good. That was good.
I also added cinnamon, but that's the trick. So it's the flour and then that honey, egg, milk mixture. You put either a mashed banana or applesauce, non-sweetened, non-cinnamon added, just plain old straight up organic, nothing applesauce.
Cool.
And let it mix, and it's fantastic.
I can live with that. I actually like applesauce. I don't make a habit of actually eating it, but again, if it were to appear in front of me in a bowl with some cinnamon sprinkled on it, I would eat it, and I would not be unhappy.
I like it on waffles.
On waffles?
Dump some applesauce on waffles.
Really?
Mm-hmm. A little bit of cinnamon.
Huh.
Becomes a cinnamon apple waffle.
Huh.
It's very tasty.
I've never even thought of that.
Yep. But yeah, no, it's the things that you think are so daunting to cook, just try them. Well, and biscuits, the problem with biscuits is the amount of baking soda.
Yeah, now my wife can make wonderful biscuits. She really can. But I know that apparently there's a lot that goes into it, and
the biggest part is the leavening. To make them fluffy, it needs a lot of baking soda, baking powder. It needs that leavening agent. Yeah. And that's sodium. Baking soda or baking powder, either way, is sodium bicarbonate. So the more you add, the fluffier your biscuits get. So if it's, milk, butter, baking soda, and flour, there's not much to a biscuit. It's the same with bread. It's not much to it.
You get a nice big puffy biscuit,
right.
And that's
all
wonderful.
That baking soda.
And again, Meijer's the only place I've ever found them and I always grab a couple of, when they have them out, I always get a couple of because you only get 4, but I mean, they're big.
Yeah.
They're big.
See, that would probably be almost a day's worth of sodium for me.
But
just in the baking soda. It's so much sodium in baked goods because of the baking soda.
Yeah.
So I tend to go towards yeast products, which is why I can eat Krispy Kremes, because it's a yeast donut and not a baking soda
Not
donut.
A baking.
It's not a cake donut.
I have not had a Krispy Kreme in a while.
I'm bummed because Jewel used to sell them, and then when the pandemic hit and everything stopped and whatever, and they were short on delivery drivers and blah, 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 and every other thing that logistically got screwed up with this whole zombie apocalypse, Jewel stopped carrying Krispy Kreme, so now there's no Krispy Kreme near us. So I don't really have...
There used to be one somewhere. I think there used to be an actual Krispy Kreme over in like Vernon Hills or something like that.
I'm pretty sure there's one still in Gurnee.
In Gurnee?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah. They're not all over the place out here, which is a shame. But I used to like the ones from Jewel that were they're the little round hockey puck looking donut with the chocolate on the top and filled with the Twinkie cream.
Yep. Boston cream.
Not the custards.
Yep.
But the actual cream. Oh, those are nice.
I'd have to say that's probably what I miss the most on being low sodium is desserts. Because so many of them, cookies and cakes and donuts and all that stuff. So one donut typically is like 350 to 450 milligrams of sodium.
Really?
So for me to have a donut, it's like, you look at things and go, so when I balance out my day, because I've said before, I equate it to money. So if I'm allowed $2,000 a day or 2,000 milligrams of sodium per day, but I feel my best at 1,500, do I want to spend $350 on a donut
Yeah.
And occasionally I do. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I can also 350 milligrams. I can have a steak dinner with a baked potato.
Yeah.
So where do I want to spend that money? What do I want to have? Because after I have that awesome steak dinner, I can most certainly find something that's low sodium or lower for a sweet snack at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So that's where I tend to, it's not that I don't eat things that I want. I'm just more calculated about picking the things that I want because I'd rather have that steak than the donut. And I know everybody's different, but at the same time, sugar from the donut is what sways me.
If they were sitting side by side, I'd probably rather. But at this point, though, I would look at the steak and go,
well, yeah,
dude,
you have
that's gonna hurt.
Right.
Yeah, no, like the chili I can live with because this will go away by tomorrow.
Right.
It's uncomfortable.
A full-blown steak is a different story.
Yeah, full-blown steak, and I'm likely to be walking around with a cane and not feeling great at all for a few days. So yeah.
Well, that's what always blows my mind about when I talk to people who have cirrhosis. Well, I'm doing everything, and how come you're doing so good and I'm not? Like, are you really doing everything?
Are you doing everything? Because
you quit drinking, which obviously you have to do if you have cirrhosis. And so many people that I know that have cirrhosis, they still smoke.
Really?
That's like you realize that you're just that alone is going to make you feel so much better. Every day that your body has to filter through all of that stuff that you're inhaling into your lungs, which is going straight into your bloodstream. Or when someone tells me how awful they feel and they've got a Diet Coke in their hand. Okay.
Drink the real soda. You'll get less of a chemistry experience shoved into your body than the diet stuff.
Right. Or if someone, crying about, I want to lose weight, and this, that, and the other, and I'm doing all this stuff, and you're holding a Pepsi or a Monster or an energy drink. Oh, well, it's sugar-free.
No.
It might be, but the garbage that's in there is still murdering your body.
You're better off with the sugar, than all the other garbage. So, and that's why even for a while I could only drink the real sugar stuff because of stupid blood allergies to artificial sweeteners,
aspartame.
Oh, that's
when bugs will not even go near aspartame.
Yeah.
You probably shouldn't be consuming it either.
Yeah, don't put aspartame in your body at all. Saccharin, sucralose.
It gives me headaches.
High fructose I can deal with, but that used to be a tragedy in and of itself. But yeah, that stuff is not good for you in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, that's why I switched where now pretty much everything, unless it's sugar that's already naturally in something, like an orange or whatever. If it's already got sugar in it naturally and it's balanced, glucose, fructose, and, fiber and all carbs, all that stuff. If it's added to something, I've taken to only adding sugar using honey. Because the benefits that you get from honey, and they haven't even scientifically been able to figure out why, but the benefits that you get from honey, at least it doesn't outweigh, but at least it gives purpose behind, eating sugar. So if I'm going to use sugar, like in my breads and stuff like that, instead of using processed refined white sugar or anything else, I tend to use honey. So my sauces, my sautés, my everything that I can, where I can substitute, I use honey versus anything else.
Yeah. I like honey. Sugar in the raw too.
Right.
Like raw.
The cane sugar.
The cane sugar, to me, tastes better
than
the processed stuff.
But simply by that, I mean, even my husband doesn't drink soda, so I pick on him whenever he does. But it's one of those things. You go for balance. And trust me when I say when you eat a little bit better, you're going to feel better. And simply reducing, not eliminating, but reducing how much sugar and salt you have in your diet, you're going to feel better for it. And, try it. Give it a shot. See how you feel. And if you don't, then tell me I'm wrong. But I suspect that you won't be able to. So
how does everybody reach you outside your show?
MyLoSoLifestyle.com, My LoSo Lifestyle Facebook page, and My LoSo Lifestyle and 21/6 the Net YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube pages. The more subscribers we have, the more we get to do. So subscribe, and we will catch you guys next week.
Awesome. All right. See you then.